We're here.
Welcome.
We're here. We were debating who should do the intro.
So we started the show Date Your Wife, the podcast, as therapy. It was our way of being able to show you guys real time what was happening in our lives, both our students inside Wake Up
I don't
Warrior.
think we started as therapy. I think it turned into therapy.
Well,
I don't know.
January 2018, we launched the podcast Date Your Wife. We went solid all through 2018, built a huge group of people to listen to it every single week, inspiring you to have conversations that were real, raw, and relevant to produce results in your life, inside of your marriage. And then we went into 2019. Danielle got pregnant.
We still did it, clear up until
only halfway through. No, halfway through.
I remember doing a podcast like right after I had her, and I was like, it was rough, guys. I made it.
Did we?
Yes, I remember.
Either way, we quit. Our commitment, when her belly got bigger and the baby got bigger, it just went down.
I think we had been doing it solid for a couple years, and I'm like, I was a little overwhelmed with the baby and everything going on, and I'm like, where are we going with this? Are we pitching something? Are we promoting something? Are we just adding value? Like, either way, I need to know what we're doing with this. And we kind of were, it became something that was like really fun to something that was a little bit stressful. And I was like, I need to put a pause on it. And then we had a lot of people asking us, people saying, even just inside of our communities and inside of our tribes, like saying, hey, can you guys bring back the podcast? And then we just recently made
We've been talking about bringing it back for 3 months.
But tell them where we're at.
Right now, we are currently in our new castle. And it's exactly what it is. It's a wee castle. Explain to what we mean by wee castle.
Well, that's kind of when I felt like I wanted to bring back the podcast, and I'm like, Garrett, should we bring back the podcast? I feel like we're making a pretty major leap inside of our lives. We've had a lot of major leaps.
Lots.
But I felt like this one was the first time that it was like both of our efforts have come to fruition, and we purchased this amazing, it's not even a house, it's a castle. And it's somewhere where I kind of had my eye on it for the last couple of years and kept telling Garrett, I'm like, I think we end up getting that house. I'm like, I don't know how, but I think we end up getting that house. And I'm not someone that like believes in like, if you just put it out there and it comes true, you definitely have to work towards your goals. But I also think that you have to entertain those goals in order to make them happen. And honestly, that's what we did. We were like, no, I don't know if we can get into that house. I don't know. And that's what we said 4 years ago at our last house.
Yep.
And then everything just happened so smoothly, and here we are. And I have to ask myself, I'm like, okay, who are we supposed to become? What's next? Like, it's meant to be kind of thing. Like, as cheesy as that sounds, I'm like, I feel like if this wasn't supposed to happen, then it wouldn't have happened.
So bottom line, here's the deal. Danielle and I spent 3 stages in relationship. We had, I should say, stage number 1 was
17 stages.
17 stages, but I created a video at divorceyourwife.com that you can go check out. Right? It's a very catchy clickbaity headline, but it gets about 500,000 people every single week who opt in to watch a video. And I talk about the 5 stages of relationship Danielle and I went through. We've been together for 20 years. We've been married coming up on 18 years. As you heard, she got pregnant, does not look pregnant now. Went off and won some fitness competitions, got sexy as hell, grew a booty through her squat workouts, and impresses me even more every single day. We'll talk more about that maybe in the show, maybe later, or maybe we'll save that just for the great experiences of memories and photos and videos inside my own mind. But nonetheless, that video, divorceyourwife.com, I'm going to walk through these 5 stages. The seduction phase, you're going to move from seduction to strangulation to suffocation, right? Which we may discuss those a little bit. And then there's this void, right? So we have these 3 things: seduction, strangulation, suffocation. And every relationship hits a suffocation point where you're like, fuck this, I'm out of here, fuck her, fuck him, I'm done, I can't do this relationship anymore. And this is why divorce has skyrocketed, and this is why people keep repeating the same shit.
I think that what was different about our relationship, and I constantly have women asking me, I own a salon in Laguna Beach called DKW Styling, and I mean, I work with a lot of women, just like you work with a lot of men, and people are constantly like, how did you guys do it? And yeah, marriages work. And there's times I'm like, to this day, I'm like, hey, I don't really want to be in the same room as you today, so go away. But what I felt like was cool is we went from this space in our marriage where I literally, like, I was severely, like, turned off by you. I was like, I don't want anything to do with him. And now I feel like we have this great chemistry back. So it's almost like I feel like we went through this place where we wanted to call it quits. We went to this place where we were like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And we had to rebuild trust. We had to rebuild our relationship. And through that, we rebuilt our chemistry. Now I think we like each other.
Oh, yeah. After last night, it would be evident that you like me. So we'll keep going. All right, so here's the deal, though. Like, we're going to use some frameworks throughout all the shows to help you find some progress. And I'm going to keep coming back to this model you'll find at divorceyourwife.com, which is this. Your first phase is seduction. We're back in seduction phase, which is quite fun. I love it. This thing just repeats itself over and over again. And gentlemen, let me spell that in English. That means lots of sex. Let's come outside of the lots of sex phase. Next phase is strangulation. This is when you start to recognize in your relationship that somebody has some flaws. You start to acknowledge, you're like, what? She what? She has some problems. And she's like, he's that what I thought was kind of annoying is actually becoming annoying.
People
now
will say like, oh, their true colors came out. I'm like, maybe you didn't notice those true colors.
You were blind to the true colors. So the true colors start to come out, but guess what? Seduction phase is still blending into the strangulation phase, so you don't care. You're like, all you can think about is the connection and the sexual vibe and the energy.
So you let go of those stupid things that bug you.
That's why it's like, I'm strangling, but I'm not suffocating yet. Then you get to a point where no amount of sex or seduction is enough, because strangulation is now the dark side or the dark warrior or the dark side of my wife.
Everything they do, you're like, ugh, like there's no seduction. You're just kind of like severely
turned off.
You're just turned off, and you're kind of like roommates, and you're like, well, we got kids, so we should probably just continue to be just settle, I guess. You know what I mean? And I talk to a lot of women too who stay in relationships for kids, and I'm like, you have to understand that how you operate and who you are is maybe not the best for your kids. So I'm not like saying, yeah, get divorced, but I'm also saying like maybe where you're at is you think is the best situation for your family and your children, and it's not.
So there's a decision that has to be made at this suffocation point. And the answer is divorce. Isn't that crazy? The answer is divorce. And at divorceyourwife.com, I go through that. I'm not trying to promote that site, except for like there's just a training video for an hour that walk you through, and it's been very useful to thousands of couples. I think it'll be useful to you. We didn't have it in the first round of the shows because I didn't have it figured out yet. So
we're still in therapy sessions.
We've still in therapy sessions figuring out. But you have a baby. Baby's a year and a half, over a year and a half old. A lot has just changed since we launched the original podcast, including purchasing the home of our dreams together as a partnership. Both our companies coming together with the profits to be able to make that happen. Both our brands exploding, and the impact we're making in the world be massive. But most importantly for us is a marriage and a family that's on fire, which is what we want for you guys. So this jump between stage number 3, which is suffocation, like I can't do this anymore. The only answer is divorce. I'm out of here. This is when guys start looking at porn all the time and jerking off, cheating on their wives, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You speak about what happens for the ladies.
I mean, I feel like, what about the men that just like drown themselves in work?
That is called seduction or suffocation too, right?
Sedation. To work?
Not like you will. Like, so you'll start doing whatever. You just work all the time. Mm-hmm. You'll ignore your wife. You'll hope. You'll pray. You'll scroll the Instagram and look at all the asses because there's plenty of them. And you'll do all this stuff like to distract. You might be a great church guy, right? You're a good church guy. And
is it because for men, are they uncomfortable like being with their wives? Or
no, they're stuck. They're in this. No, see, here's the deal though. Even when guys are in this like suffocation phase, they want to get laid.
I feel like you're a workaholic. I'm not a workaholic, but I work a lot. Mm-hmm. And there's been times even this last year where I'm like, hey, I know that if you just came home a couple nights a week earlier, like not at like 7, that means a lot to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
started coming home at 5:30 in 2021, and our sex game's gone up by like 300%.
I don't need a lot. I just need like an hour a day.
An hour a day of sex?
No, I need like you physically to be. I don't even care if you talk to me.
I can be there too.
If you could just stand there, hold the baby,
just be good looking.
You just be I don't know, just be here. I guess my love language is time, but I would argue that any couple's love language should be time, because that's how you create. That's how you stay connected.
So our goal is to help you get across the jump, right? There's a jump that has to be done between stage number 3, which is strangulation, where you feel like there's no way out. It's all dark. And even in the moments where you're super drunk in Mexico and you have sex and you think you're good, you come back to reality and you're like, this sucks. And you just kind of settle. And a lot of people may even not be in a place where they're cheating or looking at porn or drinking or doing that. You just get to a place where you're numb. And you're raising your kids and you're numb. And then you hit your 50s and you're like, fuck it, let me get divorced, right? Divorce is skyrocketing. COVID exposed the shit out of marriages. right? Divorce is through the roof. Alcohol consumption, 600% increase. People's sedation through the roof. Marriage has taken a hit like it's never taken before because of just the condition with masks and everything else we're facing. So there's a leap that has to be made. That leap is what led to the life that we have now. We made the leap in 2016, 17.
I think too, like I'll get comments like, how'd you guys do it? And I'm like, I feel like we're in a really good space, but we're far and few, like we have rocky moments still to this day. But I think for me and I think for you, we recognize when we're in that space. And for me, it reminds me of old patterns and habits and things like that. And I'm like, fuck that, Danielle, you're better than that. You need to work on your communication, like whatever it is. And so sometimes I fight for things like that might seem little, but I'm like, no, get your ass home at least 2 to 3 nights a week before 7 o'clock. Like, like I have to fight for little things like that. Whereas in the past, I'd be like, no, just be grateful that he works a lot and he takes care of you. And I'm like, I fucking work a lot and I take care of us too. And these are things for me that I know will actually make our relationships better. It's not even like I want it just for me. Like it's things like that that I want for us and I know will make our relationships better. And so it's like little things like that. I think people think we have it all figured out, but we just recognize when things are getting kind of rocky. And because we've gone through so much together, we quickly course correct. And in doing so, I feel like it makes us stronger a lot of times.
So there's a jump. This jump that we made that led to this, right? Which is the ability to, we closed the door on divorce, number one. Divorce was an option for both of us. It was a thought in the back of our minds constantly, right? Up until 2016. If you don't know our story, we had, you can go, we'll go into it over the shows that are coming, but here was the reality, big pivot for us. 2016, her and I were like done. Like I was very public about this with our tribe. We were not one of those people that are going to be like, oh my God, we love each other, best friends, soulmates, pop, and then next week, hey dude, we're getting divorced. So please send us your prayers and blessings and some biscuits in a basket. No. So we were very open about where we were.
I feel like you were very open and I was like, no, I'm a lot quieter.
You were not as open.
But then I got to this place where I was like, fuck it, I can't worry about what people think about me. Like, I don't care. This is where I'm at. Like, I can't keep pretending we had a really nice home at the time. We had really nice cars. We basically like lost everything. Our marriage sucked. And I was like, I can't, like, there's no pretending anymore. And there's no power in pretending. Like, there's power in submitting and then starting over and rebuilding something that matters.
So 2016, we were at that place again. And things were really good, but I wanted great. And we didn't know what greatness looked like. We were hunting for the life that we'd had here. Because if you rewind 8.5 years ago, we moved here from Gilbert, Arizona to Orange County, California. We moved into a place called the Dare Ranch. And right here above our home is right now in the estates where we're at on the beach. The last coastal property in Orange County is right here in the place where we live. And we came to this place 8 years ago with our girls, 8 years. So Ruby would have been like maybe 2.
Yeah, I think she's like 2
and
and a half.
almost 2. And then Bailey was like,
6.
Would have been 6 years old.
6 and a half.
So, and we're standing at this walkway up above in the parking lot at Strands Beach above where our house is. And we're looking down and it's just green lots. And we just started asking questions at that time 8 years ago. We're like, well, man, like, who do we have to become to pull that off?
I looked at it like, holy shit, like, who lives there? They must be awesome. And then I immediately was like, how do I get there? Like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, that'll never be me. It's not possible. I acknowledged, like, that's amazing. But then I was like, I want that. How do I get there? And so that's how we've always, like, gone about life, though. We've always been like, ooh, that's scary, but not like, I don't believe in myself enough to think I can get there. You know what I mean? And I think that mentality has really is why we are where we're at as both individuals, as a couple, and in our businesses as well, because we're like, okay, what's next? Like, we crave that growth, and we see things that might seem too far out of the reach, and it's like, cool, there's my target, there's my goal, and let's go get it.
So this question became the question 8 years ago, which was, who do we have to become? And for 8 straight years, and I calculated out, it was 56,000 hours. 56,000 hours, myself and Danielle combined together, have obsessed about the outcome that we have right now in our lives. Our marriage, our children, our family life, my son back in our life. 8 years ago, my son was estranged from our relationship. Me and Danielle were not connected to him. My son right now is taking care of the baby. Right now. Like Parker's here, he's on 22 in a month or so, and he's taking care of the baby that's 1.5 years inside of our house. Like he was not part of our lives. He would not be part of our lives without
crazy.
Danielle.
I talked to your ex-wife into moving here too. They live in Canada. She calls me today. She goes, I bought a house. I'm like, you bought a house? She's like, yeah, it's like 15 minutes from you guys. I was like, all right. So now I feel like there's this whole other chapter because, like, as crazy as that sounds, I really like his ex-wife. They weren't married that long. And Garrett and I feel like I'm like your first wife because we've been married together so long. Like
Yeah.
you guys were only married long enough just to have Parker.
We were together long enough to have a baby.
And she's funny. Like we talk and connect and that kind of thing. And I almost am like, when she told me she was moving, I was like, cool. Like, because I always felt like I wanted to be here for Parker, and but I didn't necessarily. I felt like his mom, but I didn't. You know what I mean? He was like 3 when we got married, so I'm always like, hey buddy. And now he's like 21. I'm like, hey buddy. And I'm like, you're a huge adult man. And I think it'll be cool to have like her down here too, and it's like another part of the chapter.
She's amazing. Her and Larry are amazing.
We've had. I feel like our story's a pretty good one.
Pretty
and
intense.
Our goal with this podcast is to help individuals, to help couples, and share our story and share what we learn throughout the process. And hopefully you guys get a ton of value out of it.
So there's this gap. I'm going to talk about it on every single episode. I'm going to talk about the gap and the jump you're going to have to make, and you're going to need to assess where you're at in your relationship, right? If you're brand new and you're dating, you're watching this, you're in the seduction phase, and you're like, and I love meeting people who've been together for like a year and a half, and they don't have any kids and no dogs and no bunny rabbits. Fuck the bunny rabbits, never buying a bunny again. We keep getting rid of these damn bunnies. Here's the deal. You're going to be in there, and you're not going to listen. I'm going to be like, hey, listen, just so you know, we just had this happen on a date night with a couple of friends of ours. We were at dinner with them here a while back. They've been dating for like a year, and I was trying to get through this guy. I was like, I need you to understand, bro. You are in stage 1. He's like, no, we're gonna have sex forever. And I was like, I'm sure you will have sex forever. I was like, but this phase comes to an end, my friend. It doesn't matter how beautiful she is or how amazing you are. It comes to an end. There's a point where things start to shift.
Right.
And annoying shit happens. Not everybody's not sexy all the time to each other.
Right.
Even today, there are times, it's hard. Half time, I see her, I can't really think about it tonight, except for when she's being
like
kind of a bitch and she'll naggy a little bit.
You're in that infatuation phase.
I'm back in seduction at another level. So now she walks in, I'm like, oh my God, he's so high.
I'm like,
rip your clothes off right
I'm
now.
like, I own you. Like.
She literally said to me last week or 2 weeks ago, we get done having sex.
You can't even say mad at me anymore. It's kind of fun.
When you sit naked on my keyboard, I don't have a choice. So it's like you activate the deep penis in me. I can't
used to be like,
anything.
you used to like have a little more control. Now he's like.
Well, listen, a few weeks ago, this is completely off topic. A few weeks ago, we get done having sex, and Danielle goes, I conquered you.
I did not say that.
She did. She said, I conquered you.
I think I said I own you.
No, you said I conquered you.
I think you said you conquered me.
No, I said you looked at me.
I must have had a cocktail.
On top of me, you clawed my chest, and you said, I conquered you. Now, to her own credit, we had been going for an hour, and it was an amazing experience, and I was having a great time, and I got multiple bullets in the chamber. I'm just going to put it out there. So here's the deal, though. That experience and everything we're at right now, we're at a new level after having jumped the gap. So what's the gap I keep talking about? The jump between suffocation, where the strangulation now it's become suffocation. Now it's like I can't fucking do this anymore. I have to be divorced. This moves in. Danielle said the word submission. You have to jump the gap, divorce the marriage the way you know it as, divorce yourself as the way you see yourself, divorce the game in your family the way it's been. You have to let go. That's why I say divorce is mandatory.
I think the biggest thing in submitting or letting go is, like, for me, and I've shared this on so many other podcasts, I'm like, you have to look at what you want the end result to be, and then you have to reverse engineer and figure out what those steps are in between to get you what you want. There's things that maybe, like, I don't want to do. Like, we might get in a big fight and I might be pissed, and then I'm like, you know what, who fucking cares? And I'm kind of like, go to you and I'm like, you know what, this doesn't matter, this is stupid. And I do little things like that constantly, because I know if I don't, I'm not really winning. I'm not really winning anything. So oftentimes when I kind of come across collisions or whatnot, I'm like, what's a win, Danielle? What's going to be a win for you, your family, your relationship? And it makes me react different to situations. So if you're that man or that woman and you are like, so you're in that strangulation phase, yep. What do you want? And how do you get there?
What is available in the submission phase, which is stage number 4, is you submit to the reality that your partner is human. And you submit to the reality in your own life that you're human. What does this mean? I know I'm an asshole. I know I'm a workaholic. I know I steamroll people. I get it. And I also know on the flip side of that, I'm a badass. The things I can do really well, the things I'm great at, I'm great at. There's a lot of shit I suck at. But the things I'm great at, being a leader, I am a damn good father. I'm an all-in father. People watching a Super Bowl in this house, we'd barely had the house for a week. I'm in the pool with the kids the whole time, right? Didn't even think twice about it. I was like, I'm in the pool with the baby. Baby swimming, I'm in the pool with the baby. But I also know Danielle's a total bitch. And I also know she's fucking brilliant. But she's both. And what's amazing at the submission phase is you stop pretending that you are perfect and your partner is flawed. You start recognizing she's amazing and she's psycho. I'm amazing and I'm a fucking psycho. And there's this power that opens up in that stage.
Well, I think that everybody has those two sides of them. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not like everybody has these sides of them. And when you're married to somebody and you're around somebody that much, you get to see every side. And you have to, even for me, like if you're being a crazy asshole, I have to be like, I'm just like, he's in work brain. He's in work brain. Like this morning, we were walking up to the old house and he was like, well, did you get this and this? And I was like, I just didn't respond because I'm like, you're in work brain. And there's no reason to even like argue about it. I was like, I don't care anymore. In about 30 minutes, we're both going to forget about it. In 30 minutes, you text me and you go, love you, appreciate what you did. I'm like, yeah, no worries. I was just trying to take care of it. You know what I mean? So there's certain situations where you're both just like angry because maybe you haven't got your workout in or whatever it is. And those are situations where I don't let that even like escalate. I'm like, give it 30 minutes. Like, it's fine. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the next chapter.
You can't conclude the episode. I have to finish the framework.
You're still going on that?
Listen,
Okay.
I know that there's going to be a lot of you listening. You just
go
like
get
to
a
hear
water, I'll be
Danielle
back.
randomly talk about stuff and we talk and collide and have a good time. I'm going to keep us in a little bit of a framework.
I don't like frames.
Well, I know you hate frames, except for then you take all my frames and build an empire with it, so you're welcome. Here's the deal. This last stage, though, submission, we submitted to each other. Here's what was born, though, that was missing from our marriage. In the first three stages, there was love, there was fun, there was hate, there was desire, there was desperation, there was get me the fuck out of here, there was I'm out of here, this is getting divorced. Literally, there was just divorce was an option. When you jump to 4 is the first time you close the door. And when you close the door to divorce and you say, fuck it, we're not getting divorced, we're working on this shit, here's what's born: respect.
I think trust.
Trust. Both. Talk to me about trust. Go.
Well, I felt like it was weird. I always felt like when we were in that kind of limbo stage, when we were still like going on dates and talking and communicating and therapy and whatnot, I always felt like you were kind of pushing me away. You're like, maybe you should go. I knew we were in trouble when you're like, maybe we should have an open relationship. I was like, if that's where we're at, like that's not going to work for me and we should probably be done. And I felt like you were kind of pushing me away.
Yeah.
And I was trying to regain trust from some situations in the past of like, you know, like losing
Cheating.
everything and cheating. And I was like, fuck, like I'm trying to work on this marriage and you're trying to push me away and I'm trying to rebuild this trust. And then I remember there was finally like several conversations where you're like, I'm not fucking going anywhere. I was like, finally! I'm like, holy shit, I've just been waiting for we can fight, we can figure this shit out, but I'm not gonna fight for somebody who's on the fence who keeps bringing up divorce. Like, either you're fucking in or you're not. And I think that's when we both got to this place where we were kind of in this place where like, I don't like you, but we both knew that we wanted to work it out. And we had enough spark and chemistry and work that had been done on ourselves individually together that we weren't willing to throw away that history and that spark, that little teeny glimpse of connection we still had. Like, I don't believe that we were fighting for each other, for our families, for ourselves. Like, we're fighting so hard that I think we were both refusing to give up. And through that, we finally went all in, and off of that built trust.
Respect became the second level of this, which is you started to understand what the other person was going through being married to you. Like, Danielle started to understand what it was like to be married to her and could see how she'd painted me into a corner. I started seeing how I'd shown up for her. Mm-hmm. I started having deep thoughts going, fuck, man, being married to me, what an exhausting proposition. Like, if I was married to me, I'd fucking be pissed at me. If I was married to me, I wouldn't fuck me either. I was like, what the hell? Like, look at you, dude. Look at who you are. So there's a radical sense of accountability where both individuals start to recognize we're the problem.
Or like, I played a role in this, and I can understand that he played a role, but I played a massive role in this as well. And my role might be a little more quiet than Garrett's, might be a little more passive aggressive, but either way, I played a role in where we're at. And I have to own that, take accountability for that. And then literally, like, I think that's what we both started to do. I was like, oh God, I am a bitch. Like, I'm very sweet. I think I'm very giving and very sweet, but I was like, oh man, I'm a little feisty. Okay, I could probably reel that in.
A little feisty.
I'm a little feisty.
Like
in
this
a
feisty.
Sweet way.
Oh, listen, I love your feistiness because when it turns the other direction,
Yeah,
I'm okay
I'm
with it. Feisty has conquered you.
Feisty's fine. I think you
Feisty's
like
conquered
that.
you, and I'm okay
but
with being
I feel like
conquered.
I'm very like I'm like out to please. I'm very doting. I'm very
Doting.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's a very
You're
intense
welcome.
word, doting.
Doting?
You've been watching Bridgerton too much.
No,
Okay,
I stopped watching that. It's bad.
So, final step, and then we're done with this episode. The final stage, when you start to establish respect and trust, there is a divine moment that happens, and this final stage I call salvation. And this is when the marriage is saved, and the relationship is saved, and there's a moment of healing that occurs that is deep. And I can't speak to what it was like for Danielle, but it was for me. And it was like my eyes for the very first time could see the power and the beauty and the history and the amount of time and energy and an ability to look at all the pain that I'd caused and to be able to let it go. And to look at all of the pleasure that I'd caused and to be able to let that go. And to let go of all the days and the times and the mess ups and the fuck ups and everything and say, okay, I love this woman. She's ride or die. I want to create life with her. I don't see any other woman. I see her. And that for me was the ultimate closure. And I feel like that happened it was interesting, that phase happened about the time Isla was born. I feel like that was probably the first time.
That's how then?
No, I feel like that was the first time where like her coming into our world here a year and a half ago, and you even being, it was while you were pregnant too. It was like that whole 2-year time period. There was just God was working on my heart, and God was like, listen, man, you need to stop fucking this up. God might not talk to you like that way. God talks to me that way. In my world, speaks my language, which is you need to stop fucking this up. And also, you're not a piece of shit. Let it go and grow. And just be all in and co-create with this woman. And from that place of salvation came this double down commitment from both of us. And while most companies and most people were getting crushed during COVID,
I feel like,
we dominated.
You know what was cool about 2020 is I was like, because we kept telling our students, we're like, 2020 is not a reflection of where you're at. It's a reflection of where you've been the last 5 years, 10 years. And I was like, even though it was kind of scary and unsettling, I was like, we fucking showed up. And not only that, like we innovated, and I was like, wow, like my company did the most it's ever done in 2020 when my salon was closed down half the year because I knew how to course correct. I knew how to innovate. We had built such a strong foundation. It's like we fucking showed up, and I felt like our true colors really like came through. Yeah, there was crazy rocky moments. Our kids are in homeschool. Like, yeah, like I mean, there were some rocky moments. You know what I mean?
Rough.
Susan came out hard a few moments.
Susan came out hard.
When we moved to this house, I was telling everybody, I'm like, Susan died. Susan's dead. She's not classy enough to be here.
Susan is Danielle after 5 shots.
You know what? I didn't start drinking until my 30s, and sometimes I'm a lightweight. It just takes me over the edge, and then I'm like, oh, that was fun, and then not so fun the next day. So Susan's dead for now. So
the place we're in right now is our dream home, and we purchased this home here just a couple weeks ago. We closed on it, moved in. It's a beautiful home. We saw this home this home took 5.5 years to build. I started construction about the time that we stood on that balcony and said, who would we have to become? The home was built for over 5.5 years, and then for the last 2 years, we lived 3 houses down from this one, where the home we purchased in 2017, and we would walk past this home as it was opened up, and the owners only came for about 3 weeks over 2 years because it was a second or third home. They had divorces and some other things happen in their life, so things changed. And Danielle would tell me every day when we walked by, and I'd run past it every day to go surf.
That was our house. I was like, that's nice that they're taking care of our home for us. Like,
and then things lined up, and the universe opened up and said, hey, let's go. And we were like, okay. And we had history with this, and Danielle and I looked at each other, and we said, okay, you know, we're making a leap into a world that we want to be in, a world that we knew we would be in, and a world that we feel very comfortable being in. And this path that we're on right now is not about money. But I will tell you right now that money and intimacy in your marriage and the money that you create and co-create as a team and the relationship with your families and the way your bodies look and the way your spiritual life is on fire. We started going to church like a month ago to a beautiful church here in Orange County called Ocean Church with Pastor Mark. Loving that church. First time I've seen Danielle be lit up, I think, by like just be lit up by a spiritual fire. She's a very spiritual woman, been much more spiritual than me.
I think that's why I always had a hard time with church. I didn't feel I would have more spiritual time with myself, doing my own thing and reading and learning and that kind of thing. And so I kind of shied away from church, grew up very like Mormon and never really had the same feelings I did as when I actually left the church. And then we would try some other churches and things like that, and I felt like I had more spiritual time on my own. And then we went to this church, and I was like, that's the first time I've actually gone to a church and felt such an abundant spirit with the community and everybody else. So it was great.
So lots of changes, right? Couldn't have told you that we would be heading down a path with Jesus Christ. That this would be something at the core of who we are and what we do. Not that we'd ever been against it or opposed to anybody who went that path. It's just for the past decade we've really worked with, I know, directly with God to create our lives to be what they are. But there seems to be a definitive path that's opening up, both with what I do at Wake Up Warrior and the explosion of now making Wake Up Warrior available to men and women as well as teens. And the conclusion of the 6 books that I published in 2019, the 6 apps that we published in 2020, and now the Wake Up Warrior Challenge that happens every 2 weeks with roughly 1,000 plus participants from around the world who are participating in these live interactive experiences with us every 2 weeks. And amidst all of that change that's happened for Warrior, at the same time, there's been an explosion that's happening in the salon world and the hair world too.
I feel like we've been grinding so hard that finally stuff's kind of like taking fruition, and it's just cool to see. I'm like, oh, it's almost like, I don't know if you ever sit back and you look at your company and you're like, wow, I did that, but then you're like, well, yeah, I've been hustling and grinding for the last 10 years,
10 years.
Minimum. And so it's kind of cool to like have those moments where you like sit back and appreciate what you built and where you're at, and like you're like, all right, we're just getting started. Let's go. It's go time. And then to take those tools that you have been building and see other people use them and have it bring so much abundance to their lives. And that's kind of with my education. Like Garrett kind of helped me. I started it, and then Garrett kind of jumped in, and then I kind of took over about 3 years ago. And we have hairlines out. We have a whole online academy. It's so crazy. I built a whole online academy before I knew everything was going to go online. Like I just kept having this guidance, whatever you want to call it, guidance, higher self, whatever, this voice. It was like, you need to go this direction. And because I feel like I'm very tapped in, and when I hear that, I'm like, I need to go this direction. And we built this online academy, and it took off. And I feel like in a way, I still kind of think I'm a baby business, but I feel like I'm making some waves, and I'm really excited to where both of us are going and where we're currently at right now.
So the ultimate goal for us, for you, in watching and being part of this podcast every week with us, is for you to have it all. We want you to have it all. This is the desire. We call it the Warrior's Way. It's embedded at the core of what happens in the hair world, which is the ability for you to have it all in your bodies, to be fit and lean and on fire as individuals. Number 2, to be being, which is your spiritual connection with God and a sense of purpose and connection spiritually with each other and your children, and ultimately God and you. And number 3, inside of your balance, which is you and your wife or husband being on fire sexually, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, in your conversations, and also a bond and deep intimacy and clarity and transparency with your children. And then finally, money. The money and business itself lines itself up. So I'm going to make an invitation to you every single week to join the Wake Up Warrior Challenge. You can do that by going to wakeupwarriorchallenge.com or wakeupwarrior.com. Here inside that is my agenda. I have a massive fucking agenda with this show, and it is to get you and your wife or husband into the Wake Up Warrior Challenge together. The tools that are in there will set you free. They will give you opportunities to do things that you never could have done without them. But regardless of what you decide on there, I'm excited to have you on the show every week. And Danielle
We'll see where it goes. I'm excited to hear people's feedback. I want to know, I feel like when we started, I feel like I've grown a lot. I feel like we've grown a lot as individuals and couples. So I'm excited to this next chapter, and I feel like this was a perfect time to rebirth the Date Your Wife podcast. So you guys, stay tuned. We're gonna be in Cancun next week, but we are gonna do a show from Cancun. Do we have a camera?
Yeah.
All right. Well, sometimes if we don't have a camera, we'll do it from a cell phone. Our goal is to just stay consistent and give you guys value every single week on the Date Your Wife podcast. Where are you going?
in the spirit of,
I was like, for some reason I thought you were gonna pick me up and toss me in the pool.
No, in the spirit of conquering me.
I'm not gonna go.
Welcome to Date Your Wife.
All right.
We'll see you guys.